We officially lost America when people exchanged Marlboro Reds for vaping strawberry shortcake.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Done Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry. Situated today in the studio library at 530 Frederica Street. We are sitting in the high-rise white brick edifice as always, and things are back to normal today. We've got PJ on the controls. How are you?
I'm good. Emphasis on high-rise.
High-rise.
That somehow got left out last time.
Last time when you had the intro and the lead for the podcast,
yeah,
you told me, you said, I even rehearsed the intro.
I did. I practiced in the shower. And all kinds of, laying in bed. I was like, this is how I'm going to say it. And then somehow I managed to leave high-rise out.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what we're talking about, our 100th episode last week, PJ did, and we switched roles.
Yep.
I sat over with the headset on, and I got to push all the buttons and turn the knobs and all that kind of good stuff. And PJ got to take the lead and do the introduction, and he left out high-rise. In the introduction, he said we're at the white brick edifice. But that's okay. For those that really know where we're sitting when we do this, they know that we're practically only about 10 feet higher than the people on the first floor. So
we're at least a white brick edifice.
We are a white brick edifice. Maybe we should say at the slightly elevated.
Oh, man. Let's change that up for the 200th episode.
But anyway, back in the saddle, and it is really neat to listen, through the, like you're hearing the air conditioner on right now, right? In your earphones. Yeah. And, but it's like when you have the earphones on and you're listening, it sounds like so super crisp and everything. It's like everything outside is gone. So I'm jealous. Have fun over there.
I was going to say, you had made reference to the headphones several times. So we have an adapter where we can have multiple headsets. So we can get you headphones.
Fabulous. That would be fabulous.
It's a preference. Not everybody likes wearing headphones. But since you like the headphones, we'll get you some headphones.
Okay. I want some headphones.
All right.
Let's move right along just to let's knock this out real quick. I'm sure that you're about ready to impart bad news for me that we have yet to reach Hawaii or Alaska.
Last I checked, I didn't check before this morning.
Okay.
I checked yesterday.
Yes.
And we had not gotten either one. But on the flip side, our numbers are really good.
Oh, yeah, are they?
Yeah.
Like we're
1,600 more downloads this season than we were last.
Oh, wow.
Or this year than last.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Well, super. I mean, that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter where they come from, right? It just matter that we're getting listeners that hopefully we lighten up their day a little bit. We educate them sometimes on matters and legal matters. We give them a little insight into the day in, day out profession of practicing personal injury law, and they get to know us a little better. So that all in all, we've accomplished what we've set out to do. But we're just getting started, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right. today, got a few things I want to talk to you about, PJ.
Okay.
First of all, and I think you may have overheard a little bit about this. Yesterday, I'm very rarely use social media to be confrontational. I will never get into political discussions on Facebook.
Right.
I will never get into religious discussions on Facebook.
Well, there's no point.
I feel like discussions about my religion should be with people who I have established a relationship with and have trust with, and that I can speak to them without them feeling like I am accusing them for being wrong for not believing the way I believe. And you and I have had many discussions about our religious beliefs or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And out of respect for each other, that's how we've discussed that. And that's how I am with a lot of my friends that don't believe in the same way I do. Would I want them to believe the way? Yeah, I would love that. But I'm not going to create a friction in our friendship or our relationship because of that, you know?
Well, I can say, not to cut you off, but I've had many, many religious conversations. I'm agnostic for anyone who's interested in knowing that. So I won't say it's not true, but I have a lack of faith. So I have a really hard time because I have a really hard time believing in things that are intangible. And I know that sounds bad, but it's like things you can't really touch or see,
right,
or taste or feel. So I have a really difficult time putting my beliefs in that. However, I've experienced things in my life that make me question, is there something more, or at least there's something going on that we don't understand, or it could be science we don't understand. But regardless, I will never sit there and tell someone they are wrong.
Right.
You're one of the few that I would say I've had an engaged conversation, not an argument with about it, and we still walked away, and it was like we understood where we were at.
Yeah, no,
but there was no animosity.
Well, again, big long wind up, probably for a quick pitch here, but I don't, for that very reason, I don't get into discussions on Facebook about religion or politics. Now, I will put stuff on my Facebook page like a scripture, or I will put something about a great song that motivates me that is faith-based. But I don't engage or to be argumentative with people. I just don't. I use it to show pictures of my family and to promote podcasts and work and stuff like that. You know, it's a rather vanilla page if you look at my Facebook. Now, yesterday while I was eating my lunch, there was a post on Facebook by a person that is a friend. And for those that just to kind of explain myself here with Facebook, because my Facebook is the core page off of which we built the firm's Facebook page. I will allow pretty much anyone to be my friend on Facebook. If they send me a friend request, I don't look and see, anything. Because I know that it's going to be basically my page mirrors a lot of the firms, and so I will. So I have a lot of friends who are not like my close friends. They're just friends on Facebook,
Yeah,
and I know there's a
promotional tool.
I know there's a lot of people like, yes, right. But so this person who is a friend on Facebook posted something, and I'll tell you what it was. It was like a graphic. It was a graphic, and it had words that said order, and then it said an arrow, not law. Decree, and an arrow, not law. Mandate, an arrow, not law. Ordinance, and an arrow, and not law. Well, the point they were making is all these things that are being used to tell us that what we must do with regards to COVID, vaccinations, masking, negative tests before you're allowed places, mandating our behavior, that all of these things are not law. And he was basically saying, don't be duped. It's not law. Okay.
Right.
And so I know what he was trying to communicate. And I think, again, if people would just say what they mean instead of some graphic that insinuates that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
However, it was an inaccurate, what he posted was inaccurate. And so I did not want to argue with him, but I also felt like from a legal perspective, and since that's what I do if somebody was to put up there, that amoxicillin doesn't work on certain infections, right? A doctor would say that's not accurate. It does, and so I thought, I'm on my lunch break. I'm just going to say, look, I'm not arguing with you, but your post's not accurate. So I did. I said, and I didn't. I said, I'm not going to argue, but your post is not accurate. And so not him, but another reader put in the comments, they said, "Oh, are you sure about that? Please share." So I thought, okay, if you want me to explain, I will. And I did. I didn't get on there and say, you idiot, how could you, I got on there and I said, all right. And I gave the Black's Law Dictionary definition of an ordinance, and how it's law that is mandated.
Yeah, there's another
by
word.
the a local municipality that is enforceable, and there can be penalties. Okay, so law, ordinance is law.
Right.
So then I took the next word, decree, and I gave the example of a decree of dissolution of marriage. Right, which you're familiar with. Now,
I think I've heard of that.
If you decided to do something contrary to that decree, do you think that the court would make you obey it?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Why? Because it has the force of law, right?
Right.
And so I gave, again, the Black's Law Dictionary definition of decree. So then I went to the next word, order. And I said, okay, every day in Kentucky, we are ordered to pay child support. We are ordered to do something by a deadline, by a court, or by an executive office. If not followed, there are consequences. And I gave the Black's Law Dictionary to order, showing that it is law.
Right.
So I went through all that, and the guy that had asked me, he goes, wow, thank you so much. You're exactly right. And he said, by the way, does your firm do wills?
So you picked up a client.
Right. I said, absolutely, we do. He said, how's the best way to contact you? And I said,
awesome.
Well, the best way to contact, I gave the phone number, and I said, happy to help you or whoever needs help, And he made some comments like, great to know that there's an attorney out there that took the time to do this. I mean, so my result in engaging in that ended up being a good one.
Right.
Now, as you know, Missy very busy at her job, so I don't really get to talk to her during the day. So I was excited when I got home to tell her about it, and I went to my phone to pull it up to show her, and it was gone. So the person that had posted it, who never engaged with me, remember, it was a person commenting on that post that had engaged with me.
Right.
The person that posted it apparently didn't like.
Well, because it's contrary to what their agenda was.
Right.
That's what
right.
it was.
It probably would have been better off just to come off and say, ask it in a question like, okay, if we see things like something's mandatory or something, is that really law, and do we have to follow it? Ask it in a question and get the answer. You know what I'm saying? But instead, putting a graphic up like that, and I have seen thousands of things on Facebook that I wanted to take the time to respond to that I don't, because I don't have time to do that.
Right.
But yesterday, it just I was eating my lunch. I thought, you know what? Why not? And so
the problem is, and this, I'll just be very blunt about this, there's too much stupid on social media, and it's hard. I don't know if it's like this with every generation, but recently, I would say within the last, I won't even say it was just since, Trump was in office, but it seems like within the last 7 years or so, there's just been this massive lack of common sense that just keeps growing.
I saw something yesterday that said America officially we officially lost America when people exchange Marlboro Reds for vaping strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just wonder, I know that there's still some people from what's considered the greatest generation still around. And of course, the generation now seems to be very anti that generation because, they say it's full of, toxic masculinity and things of that nature. Now, we're all ever-changing individuals. I've had ideas and thoughts and things. We've even talked about this on previous podcasts, like things that we thought at one time, you kind of start to think more about it and you go, well, maybe that's not right. My thinking in that is not correct.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is when we had the entire episode that we talked about behavioral health, mental health,
right.
I had such a closed mind on the people that claim to have those issues, what I thought about them versus reality.
Right.
So yes.
But you wake up and so I'm going to read this headline from The Guardian. Now, The Guardian, for those who may not know, is a international media based site out of, well, I'm sure they probably have like a hard paper, but they're out of London.
Okay.
You are not a horse. FDA tells Americans stop taking dewormer for COVID.
Now what?
Okay, so apparently it's gotten around, and I know we've kind of been through a similar situation before where it's gotten around where the rumor is that horse dewormer will help you beat COVID. So people are going out and buying and taking horse dewormer, and it's making them sick. Naturally, because, like the FDA says, you're not a horse.
Right. You're not a horse.
That's like finding a flea on you and then you take like flea medication for an animal. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, so first of all, do you have any idea? Does it go into? Does it explain where the rumor came from? Like, was that ever even tested? Like, why would all of a sudden that get into mainstream media that a horse dewormer would be effective in preventing you from contacting COVID-19?
It's misinformation. It says it's misinformation about ivermectin, which is the name of the medication, the horse dewormer. It was spread on social media through right-wing media and politicians, it says.
Okay, so, but you haven't seen anything yet. I know you're kind of perusing the article, but nothing where somebody actually started by saying, oh, I know 10 people that took ivermectin or whatever it was, and they've not gotten COVID yet, and they've not been vaccinated. Like there's not even a scientific, even though it may be a minuscule piece of science that this like generated from, or
apparently they were looking at it at one time as a potential alternative medication. But it says that the test results suggesting ivermectin could inhibit replication of the virus, but it did not amount to anything substantial for use.
All right. So in other words, science could not come close to substantiating its effectiveness.
Right.
If somebody gets a hold of this and runs with it, and now we actually have people who are taking horse dewormer.
Right.
I would assume it's by pill. I don't know.
There's what's funny is how ads are built into the articles. Right. There's actual ads for horse dewormer, so you can purchase horse dewormer in this ad, which is.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's again that.
But
there
if you
go.
own
That's
horses,
social media, retargeting, all the things that are amazing about the abilities to advertise via handheld phones. It's just amazing.
Well, and see that's the thing. It's like, and I've said this many times over the last probably 5 or 6 years, but social media can be a great thing. I use it constantly for promoting the stuff that I do, promoting us, networking with other artists and keeping up with some friends that otherwise I would not be able to keep up with. The other problem with social media is, I think it's the biggest problem with social media, is that social media gives everyone a voice. And I know the Declaration of Independence says we have freedom of speech, and that's great. But unfortunately, there was a time when you had people that were like screaming and yelling their beliefs, no matter how ridiculous or insane they may sound, but they were only able to do it on the corner of the street.
Right.
Social media has given all those people now a platform to do that for the masses to consume.
Right. And they all have, it seems, a few minions that will support them.
Right.
Right. And so if you go on there and dare state anything that would be contrary, and sounding in good logic, still the minions attack you.
Yeah. And the sad thing about social media, too, is it's the people that bark the loudest are the ones that most people think speak for everyone. Mm-hmm. And they don't. It's usually the minority. Because I have friends who are feminists, right? But the feminists that you see screaming and yelling and the memes that are made out about, they'll say they don't represent me.
Right.
They don't represent what I believe.
Right.
Right. Now they're going to have some crossover in their beliefs and their feelings, but those people tend to take it a step further. And those are the people also that turn most everybody off from the message that the real individuals who are trying to accomplish something, it's turning everyone off from that.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's a perfect segue to the next thing that I wanted to discuss today.
And it was totally by accident.
Well, that's perfect. Perfect segue, man. You couldn't have teed it up any better. A few ruin it for the many that really stand for what's the genuine about the issue. Okay,
right.
That's what you were getting at.
Right.
That is never more true than it is with lawyers. Okay.
All right.
All lawyers don't stand on semis with a bat or a gigantic hammer and represent what real lawyers are out there doing, right? I mean, but you know who I'm referring to, the hammer.
Oh, yeah.
Or the sledgehammer or whatever,
the sledgehammer.
Right, okay. And so you have these few lawyers that make it so difficult. And yesterday I was reminded about this, PJ. Did you see the headline about the artist and the Nirvana lawsuit?
I was so hoping we were going to talk about this.
Okay.
Yes.
So if for those that have not heard, the Nirvana album cover with the child who is in a pool of water and there's $1 or it's a
it's a fishing line with $1 attached to it.
Fishing line with $1 attached to it, right? And you may remember that child has now grown up as a full-grown man and has sued.
He's in his 30s now.
That's right. He has sued the art director, the estate of the band members that are of Kurt Cobain, the other band members, and several others have been named in this lawsuit, claiming that this guy has been injured, that it was used without permission,
right? And years of emotional distress.
Because people would walk up to him and want to pose with him with a dollar bill hanging, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that it was an attempt to saying that he as a child was being farmed out for sexual things, for money. And so anyhow, the lawsuit is very real. It has been filed. It's news of it circulated, I believe, yesterday or the day before. And I've heard discussion on talk radio about it. And so let me just say, so first of all, if somebody was to say to me, would you file such a lawsuit? Well, no, I wouldn't. And nor would the attorneys in this firm. So the next question then should be, well, then why does someone do this? Well, number one, even if they're not successful, this has been their moment where their name as an attorney is in the news.
Right.
Their lawsuit made the news. And some people don't care how ridiculous their position has to be if it's another way of promoting themselves. All right. So now somebody that heard the beginning of this podcast may say, well, Travis, it was ridiculous for you to engage on Facebook with a person about a post and you just did that to bring notoriety to you and your firm to get business or whatever. Okay.
Right.
So if that's your belief, that's fine, but it's wrong. But yeah, so, you know, the attorney may be doing it to promote himself or herself. And would I promote my firm in such a way? No, I wouldn't. I would not. I wouldn't say, let's take some ridiculous position on a case so that we are all over the news. Okay.
Yeah.
However, it works for some people. They get more work. You know what position they put themselves in? To have to take more ridiculous lawsuits.
Right.
All right. So if you read behind this, and I've only done a little bit, maybe you've read more, but I did read. I read that, you know, and the very first thought that came to my mind was, well, did you sue your parents for letting this happen? Where were your parents in this? And apparently the parents say that they only got $200. Well, that makes it even worse. You know, your parents were willing to throw you in a pool and
allow a photographer
to take pictures
of your genitalia
for $200.
Only $200.
What do you think about this, PJ?
Oh, you know, I'm so excited that you brought it up for one. So, you know, we've talked about frivolous lawsuits in the past. And what's interesting is when you talk about, or when you say ridiculous lawsuits, I think the one that people think about the most, and we've talked about this before too, is the hot coffee spilled on the old lady from McDonald's. Everybody says that's where it all started. Interestingly enough, though, what you come to learn is that woman was legitimately injured, though. And that's the one thing you don't hear about. Like, she was severely burned by that coffee, and there were factors that you don't hear. So when you hear about the woman and the coffee, you think, well, it's ridiculous. It's a cash grab. Because, I mean, of course, coffee is hot. But there's more to it than what you realize. Right.
And I don't want to hijack your thought. There is a whole documentary on this called Hot Coffee.
Right.
And it details, if you are accusing all lawyers of fraudulent lawsuits based upon the hot coffee case, please take time to watch the documentary, Hot Coffee, that tells you the behind the story about that, where McDonald's had been warned for years about the dangers of their coffee, and that all it would take is a small change that wouldn't cost that much, but McDonald's made the conscious decision to continue serving coffee that they knew could injure someone.
Right. Well, you know, the other thing too is that from what I'm to understand, they made their coffee hotter than it was supposed to, with the idea behind it being, you know, it's hot, you're not going to drink it right away, and you need your coffee to still be warm on that drive from McDonald's to work.
Right.
So that way it's still warm and hot when you get there. So anyway, I say all that to say this. I do not believe this is the case where someone is legitimately traumatized by the actions of their parents. This guy here's what I honestly believe. I really do think this is a cash grab. And what's funny is I had a back and forth on someone I'm Facebook friends with posted about this and was like, he's not wrong, you know. And I got on there and explained why I believed it was a cash grab. Now, what she came back with, I agreed with what she was saying, that some people will do things and regret it later, you know, whether it was for money or whatever. And yeah, that is the case. But then I came back at her with what I believe to be pretty substantial common sense in this case, and she ended up deleting the whole post.
Sure. That's the brave way of dealing with posts.
So, in my opinion, this is, for one, the best thing that ever happened to this guy, because he grew up to be an artist. Okay. So this gave him, in the article, one of the articles I read, he said that it makes me feel like I'm famous. What's bad about it is I feel like I'm famous, even though I've never actually haven't accomplished anything. Well, no, what this has done is this puts you're part of popular culture. And if you're an artist, nothing is better than free press and being a part of popular culture, because that gives you an avenue to promote what you're doing. And then on top of it, the guy, not only did he fully embrace it for almost 20 years, but he had the name of the album tattooed on his chest, and he met with no more than 5 major publications to recreate that photo. He wasn't nude, but he recreated that photo for money in order to not only promote what he was doing, but promote the anniversaries and things of the album, because it was like one of the best selling albums of all time. Now, here's the thing. I don't disagree with the fact that, could he regret the fact that he got with, Rolling Stone magazine and took a major, took an opportunity because of this? And then regretted it later? Yeah, there's that possibility. But here's the thing. With him being an artist, I'm going to assume this guy's probably like looking at him and then reading more about him. He's probably never had like a real job. He's been going through the motions of life
based on
this one thing that opened up. And he even says in an early interview that this is one of the most awesome things that's ever happened to him because it's opened up so many doors and opportunities for him.
Right.
Now he's saying it's child pornography. So here's what I think. I think he's wanting to be an artist, and being an artist is hard. It is not easy, and you have to be talented. So I think whether his art was successful or not, we all like money. So he took that money. And now I think he's in a position where he just either needs money or wants more money.
Right.
And how's the best way to do that? Well, you say I was exploited.
Right.
And then you sue 17 different people for $150,000 a piece. People that didn't even make decisions as to the cover of that album.
Right.
And then in one of the articles I read, it said that it is if a picture is taken of a naked child, but it's not done in a sexual manner, it's not considered child pornography, which makes sense. But his lawyer is saying that the fact that they have the hook with the dollar on it is giving you the assumption that he is a sex worker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I've never looked at an infant who can't. I'm sorry, someone who sits around in a diaper getting on themselves and think they're a sex worker. That has never crossed my. They can't even be a worker at McDonald's. And your defense is that this was supposed to give the idea that he was a sex worker as a baby floating in a pool.
Yeah,
it's a stretch, and it's a cash grab.
Well, we're gonna have to track this lawsuit. The beauty of it is that we've got access to the actual court documents. As attorneys nationwide, we can get, and we just need to track this lawsuit on whether it does eventually settle, or whether it does eventually go to some type of an adjudication. So we got to keep up with it. You can't just let this be a flash in the pan.
Oh, right.
Okay. But what immediately came to my mind was that depending upon the success of this lawsuit, there may be another child who is now about 40 and files a lawsuit because of the Van Halen 1984 cover with a small child smoking a cigarette.
Ooh. What about what's the advertisement where the dog's pulling the little girl's bathing suit down?
Oh, yes.
Or was it a boy?
I can't remember. Yeah, we need to look. We need to find that one. But right there, I'm showing it to you.
Yeah.
Van Halen 1984 cover with a baby smoking a cigarette. Right.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think if I enlarge that, it's the Surgeon General's warning is on the side that's showing to the hey, you may think I'm being
well, no, because here's the other thing. If there's even a smidge of baby nipple in that picture,
it's porn.
They're gonna say,
yeah,
it's pornography.
So I don't know who that child is. It would be interesting to know what story this person has behind them, because if they were 84, 94, 04, 14. So that's 37. So yeah, this child's probably about 40 years old
right
now.
Well, the other problem you have with this is there are people out there who have been taken advantage of.
Sure, absolutely.
And have real emotional trauma. And I'm not saying that this guy doesn't have any emotional trauma, But there's people out there who really have been put through the ringer or been forced into some kind of sexual thing as a child.
And you know what this lawsuit does for them?
And it's taken advantage of those types of people.
Well, it makes it harder to win those cases. It makes it harder to stand up for justice for those cases because people begin after another of these boy that cry wolves type cases come up. People get desensitized to it and becomes less meaningful because we see these fake cases,
Right.
And that's exactly what's happened in our line of work with injury law. We represent people with very real injuries that they've suffered as a result of very real negligence, but they get lumped into the corner. They get lumped into the same side with cases that have been based meritless cases where people are doing money grabs. And so it has desensitized the jurors, and therefore the values of these cases have plummeted.
Right.
And, and it's very sad. It's something that, I'm, of course, this is something that will get the hair on the back of my neck standing up because I see the effect it's had over time. It's a whole different scenery in representing injured people now than it was back when I first started practicing law.
Yeah.
It's totally different. So, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing too, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't think about, which is there's a reason they say no press is bad press. Now, you can't have some bad press. That you really can't have bad press. But what's going to happen with this guy is let's say that the case really doesn't go anywhere. Let's say that he doesn't or even doesn't win the case. What this is doing for him as someone who is claiming to be an artist, it's putting him in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
It's sending people to his website. It's having people look into who he is and what it is that he's doing. So he is going to benefit off this regardless, because at the end of the day, there are going to be slews of people that look at him as the victim, whether he really is the victim or not. I mean, there's going to be people that set up Indiegogo pages or GoFundMe pages to try to get this guy money. I mean, that's the world we live in now. I mean, that's, he probably has all kinds of girls hitting him up in his DM.
And all of this changed, PJ, when we went from smoking Marlboro Reds to vaping strawberry cheesecake.
Yeah.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been More Law Light, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, fwhlegal.com. If you want to learn more about the firm, check us out on social media, all platforms of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Until the next time, PJ and I are out, and hope you have a blessed day.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth.